Hey, what's up, guys? So today we'll be sending requests and getting response from our API. So more like communicating with our API today. But before that, let's test what we actually did in our last class. Let's see if AJAX really sent request to our PHP file, and let's see if we're able to grab that request and use it to do something. So first of all, I'm going to check if a post request is being set. Remember, we set a post request, right? Or a post method in the type, which is this. So I'm going to check now if it sets a post method, and if there's a post method of what search. Remember, we send the data right through a post method to this process.php, right? All right, guys. So I'm going to say if it's set, that's if it's been set. If it's set, let's say a post, that is $_post. All right, a post method of, let's say, what search. Remember the name, we gave it a name of what search, right? So let me just copy this here and come over and paste over here, what search. All right, so if it's set, now let's just echo it directly. And now in PHP, when you echo a statement, or when you echo something, you are trying to print it out. Okay, so now let's just echo that post, or let's echo whatever is being sent in the post method. It's as easy as that. Now let's grab this request in our AJAX and let's use it to do something. So remember, we set on success what should happen, and on error what should happen. On error, we decided that okay, it's going to alert this message, right? But on success, now let's just say it alerts a response. Now alert that response. Now it's going to pick whatever response. Remember now, or you can see now that this echo is going to be a response. JavaScript or AJAX is going to see this as a response, and it's going to alert that response here. So now let's just say alert. Let's use the alert method and type in response. As easy as that. And now let's Ctrl S, let's save this and come to our browser. Now let's refresh and let's test this out. Let's see if it's going to work. And let's type in I'm a boy, and wow, you can see it's working, right? So we are getting that request, right? So whatever I type inside, 2 3 4 blah blah blah, you can see I get whatever I type inside. So you can see now this indicates that AJAX and PHP, they're actually communicating and sending response to each other. You can see they are sending, one is sending request, the other one is giving a response, and that's the main goal of this tutorial. All right, guys, so now what I want to do now is this. Now I think I don't need this page. I'm going to close this now. And all right, so this is what I want to do. So I'm going to assign this post to a variable, right? So how do you assign a variable in PHP? You use the $sign, right? Okay, and we'll say, let's say what search, or let's say, yes, let's just keep it as what search, simple. What search is equals to that post request, right? What we are getting from AJAX. So we're going to assign it to this variable, you can see, right? And now we are going to set a URL. That's the URL of our API. And now, okay, let me show you guys the URL. And this is our API. I'm going to leave this in the description below so you can get access to it. So let me set up my internet connection so you can actually see what's going on here. I'm going to connect to my, okay, let me disconnect and connect now straight away. All right, so basically this is the API we are going to be using. It's a free API from Rapid API. So when you just, so I'm just going to copy it and all right, so when I type hello inside as a key, type hello. All right, so you can see api.dictionary, api.dev, blah blah blah, and the endpoint, I'm just going to type whatever endpoint inside. I'm going to type hello, and you can see it gives me everything about hello. And I have a software that I can use to actually get a proper view of this, and I'm going to use Postman for it. Okay, I'm sorry, you are seeing most of my stuff is dark. That's because this video is being recorded in night, so it's switched to night mode. All right, so I'm just going to paste this and I'm going to pass in the endpoint. And what's the endpoint? Let's say we want to pass in school as an endpoint, and I'm going to send it. Now make sure the request is set to, and I'm just going to send it. So guys, you don't actually need this software. If you needed it, I would have actually, taught you how to install it, and I would have provided it as sort of a requirement for this course, but you don't need it. So you can actually do this in your browser. You can see this is actually, I'm accessing this API through my browser, you can see. So I actually just wanted to have more like total influence on this API so I can work with it very well. So that's why I'm using the Postman. If not, you don't actually need it for anything. All right guys, so I'll just be using the Postman to analyze this API so we can be able to work with it. Okay guys, that being said, I'm just going to close this now and come over to my file. All right, I'm going to pass the URL into a variable like this. I'm going to pass that URL into the variable, and this is the URL. So now remember, I've copied the URL and this is the URL, right? So now for this to work, let's just click on this, Control plus click to follow the link. If I click on this and let's go to our browser, notice something. All right, let it load. So you can notice you say cannot get API v2 entries in, and that's because you need to pass in an endpoint, right? But when I pass in an endpoint, let's say, or I pass in a word, let's say pen, now it's going to, let's see what's going to happen. So you can see it returns a response for us, and it's pass in whatever, or it gives us whatever we put in. That's pen, the phonetic, inscription, meanings, license, and a lot of information which we'll be working together with. All right guys, so this is what we're going to be doing. So in this URL, we are going to be passing the variable directly. We're going to be passing this variable, whatever we get from this word search, that's whatever we get from here, whatever we get from this, that's, remember, it's still the same search, this value we're getting that we passed into it as a data and we sent it to process, and now we are assigning into this variable called word search. So we're just going to put it over here and say okay, word search. All right, so that's it. Anytime we send this URL, it's going to pass whatever the user gives into this automatically. So then what are we going to do next? So what we're going to do next is to get what? The contents. Now, how do we get the content? We want to get everything this API returns to us, and we want to pass it into a string. And how do we do that? Let's call it JSON data. Let's just give it a variable called JSON data and say file get contents. Now I'm going to show you what the file get content means, and you can see file get contents. Let me just all right, let me just pass in the URL here. So I'm going to pass in this URL into the file get content, meaning it should get me the contents of this URL, whatever it passes. For example, now when we pass this pen now into this API, it should get me everything and pass it into a string rather. Can see? So that's what this file get contents. It should get every content it can get, or grab whatever content it can get from this URL and display it to me as a string. Now when I hover my mouse over file get content, it shows this. You can see, it reads entire file into a string. Reads entire file into a string. As simple as that. So that's what it actually means. Whenever you see this method or function, file get content, is to read entire file from it might not necessarily be a URL, from let's say document or anything, and it reads it entirely into a string. Okay guys, so to test this out, let's see if it's really going to get that content from the URL. And what I'm going to do is to come over here, and we have an unsaved document, and I'm just going to save this Ctrl+S and Ctrl+S. All right, okay, so let's just say echo the JSON data. Let's see what's going to happen. Echo that JSON data. All right, so now let's refresh. I'm going to refresh this. Okay, and I'm going to type hello, and let's see what's going to happen. So when I make a search, so you can see it's giving me everything I want, right? Isn't it nice? So remember why I'm getting this is because from here I decided to alert audio response. You can see, so that's why I'm getting it as an alert. So when I type hello, you can see it alerts it for me. So now let's see what we can use this and do. Can use it and do a lot of things, right? Okay, so guys, and what I'm going to do now is to decode this data so we can be able to use it. So I'm going to decode this data and pass it into a variable called result. I'm going to say result is equals to JSON decode. So we have a method in PHP called JSON decode, and what is it decoding? It's going to decode this JSON data all right, and it's going to set it to true. JSON data, and it's going to set it to true, as you can see here. And let's say true. Okay.